Good afternoon. I thank you all for attending today's webinar. If you'd please wait 1 minute, we're going to allow 1 more minute for any late attendees to join us. Thank you. And while we're doing that, if I could please ask kindly for confirmation in chat that attendees are able to hear me. Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Well, hello again and good afternoon. Thank you for joining today's webinar, through which we're going to cover e-filing for probate in Maricopa County. My name is Mike Nims. I serve as one of the directors here with the clerk's office. I would like to provide some introductions for some other individuals joining me. Ramona Demian serves as operations manager. Denise Hill, e-file supervisor. Kristen Melser, probate registrar. Emily Lutke, who serves as an auditor. And joining us from the Administrative Office of the Courts, AOC, Nicole LeConte. So many thanks to all of them for joining us today. The format for today's presentation will be a brief PowerPoint presentation, likely 20 to 25 minutes. We'll then have a demo of the e-file interface, followed by Q&A. I would anticipate at least 15 to 20 minutes being available for questions. We will have a hard stop at 1 o'clock, but we'll attempt to answer as many questions as possible in that time. We will be recording today's session for future reference. And at the end of today's presentation, we'll disseminate the PowerPoint deck shared today to all registered users. And Muska, who I failed to introduce, Muska Lumi from our communications team. If I could please ask you to move to the next slide, please. Okay, probate for e-file has been available for a little over 6 months in Maricopa County. And that was a collaborative effort between the clerk's office, Superior Court, and the Arizona Administrative Office of the courts. It's exciting in that this is the last of the major case types available for e-file now in Maricopa County. All major case types are now available. We will get into exclusions in a little more detail in the subsequent slide, but at this point, most post-initiation or subsequent documents are eligible for e-file. The electronic filing service provider that the service is offered through is eFile AZ, which is available through the Supreme Court's website, but there are also links on the the clerk's office's website that will direct you there as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. The primary authority for probate e-file and all e-file throughout the state is in Arizona Code of Judicial Administration, specifically 1-901. As a friendly reminder, I'd always encourage attorneys, litigants to periodically check for any updates to judicial code. It is the comprehensive authority for e-file. Periodically, there are administrative orders or directives that will update it. So on a regular basis, I would encourage you to visit it for any such updates. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Kristen Melser, who serves as the probate registrar for the clerk's office, and she's going to cover a slide in more detail of what cannot currently be e-filed or exclusions. Thank you. Kristen.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. So I hate starting with the negative, but I'm going to discuss what cannot be e-filed. So any original wills, court certified documents where we have to verify with a raised seal, those kind of things for their authenticity, we would not be able to accept via e-file. Anything that is going to be issued currently, like letters, that sort of thing, you would not submit those via e-file. We would have to get those over the counter. that would be under the umbrella of the documents requiring a clerk seal or signature. Subpoenas, summons, the usual for some of our other case types as well are common with probate. Any case initiating documents. We are currently just doing subsequent filings. Eventually, we will be able to do case initiations, but currently, for now, we're just taking subsequent documents. And of those subsequent documents, we are not accepting resubmissions to the registrar's office for informals. Those still have to come over the counter. The information sheet still has to be filled out, that sort of thing. And those still have to come to us over the counter or via mail. And then, of course, documents filed into sealed cases. Those still have some protocols in place where it requires them to come to the counter with envelopes, cover sheets, that sort of thing. And then documents that you're going to file under seal, again, because of the requirements for them to be filed with motions and sealed in envelopes as they're presented. They cannot just be submitted through eFile.
All right, my name is Ramona Demian, and I am the court operations manager for the downtown location. I'm going to go over the next couple of slides. Actually, I think next few slides. So on this slide, filing confidential documents. When someone marks a document as a confidential in eFile AZ, that doesn't alone mean that this document is going to be restricted for public access. The document would only be treated as confidential if the document type is designated confidential by rule or policy, or if a court order directing confidentiality is attached. There are certain documents, document types that are automatically restricted by the clerk's office. These include accounting confidential, probate information form restricted, budget report confidential, court investigator report, credit report confidential, medical report, and inventory appraisement confidential. All right. Accessing e-filed documents. Once a probate document has been accepted, parties and attorneys can access it through the clerk's electronic court record system, also known as ECR. It is important to note that the sealed and the confidential documents would only be available in ECR. Will not be viewable in ECR. In addition, copies of accepted e-file documents are available in eFile AZ about 15 to 30 minutes after we accepted the document on the clerk's side. Again, sealed or confidential documents will not appear there. So if someone cannot see a document, it is usually because it has been designated confidential or sealed. Obtaining copies of confidential e-file documents in person. So if an authorized party needs a copy of a confidential document, they may request it in person during regular business hours or at any clerk's office location. That includes the customer service center in downtown Phoenix, as well as our northeast, southeast, and northwest locations. Access to confidential documents is limited to authorized parties, so identification and verification may be required. And then obtaining copies of confidential e-file documents by email. So in addition to in-person requests, the clerk's office may provide a courtesy copy of confidential documents via encrypted email. Those requests can be sent to our email address listed on the slide, coc-efilessupport@maricopa.gov. And these requests need to be made within 10 business days of the file date. Copies are sent only to the email address on record for the party or attorney, which helps us maintain confidentiality and security. This option is meant to provide convenience while still protecting sensitive information. And so with this overview, I'm going to turn it back to Kristen to go over the last few slides.
Thank you, Ramona. So tips for successful e-filing. Before you file, we encourage you to attend an eFile AZ training session and review our ACJA 1-901 electronic filing document that'll show you the latest and greatest restrictions or anything that's going on that we can't take, can take, that sort of thing. And avoiding common mistakes. You want to verify that your case number and your party names match the court record. You want to ensure that document titles and captions are complete and accurate and match the document that's being submitted. You'd be surprised. Confirm that all documents are signed and notarized if they are required to be. That kind of goes back to what we can accept. A lot of our documents have a place for a notary / deputy clerk signature line. And if you're submitting on e-file, it would need to be notarized. And of course, pay all the required filing fees at the time of submission. That will help with preventing delays and getting the file date. So training and support. We have training resources, virtual training for azcourts.gov. It's recommended for all parties. There are separate sessions for self-represented litigants and attorneys. There are live virtual sessions hosted weekly, which is great. And then the information for AOC support services, which is just for general e-filing questions, portal issues, technical assistance, all that. That information is available on that slide there. And again, the slide will be provided at the end of this meeting. And then, of course, our clerk of court e-file support for any deficient filings, return documents, expedited requests. That information is available there. To call the clerk line, that 602-372-5375 number, or email COC e-file support at maricopa.gov. And we've also provided some additional website links, links to the platform, azcourts.gov e-filing information. That will give you information in reference to rules and requirements, the training resources, all the technical support that we talked about. And then e-file guidelines and frequently asked questions. We do have that available at our clerk of court website. And you can always reference the Superior Court website, of course, for Maricopa County, which is superiorcourt.maricopa.gov. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Denise Hill. She's our e-file supervisor, and she's going to be demoing, I believe, how to e-file.
Thank you, Kristen. Afternoon. I'm going to do a demo of filing. I hope everyone can see my screen. So you would come here and you would have your filing app options as the e-filing map. Oh, and I just clicked it off. Sorry about that. Of course. And it takes me off.
Sign in button in the middle of the screen again, one more time.
Right here.
Yep, in the very middle of the screen where it says sign in. Bottom.
Oh, I don't even see it. There it is. Sorry. So I'm choosing Maricopa, of course. There's other courts that you can choose. We're in Maricopa. I am choosing that one. It's going to ask you if you would like to file a new case or if you already have an existing case. Of course, right now, e-file for probate, we're only doing subsequent filings. So you're just going to choose, you have a case. I'm going to say I want to file now. I'm going to, this is all your information. You'll set all of this up before you can file, but this has already been pre-set up by me. Then my next step would be to go into my case. I'm going to add a case here. And I'm going to do a search. And it will bring it up. As you can see, it's probate, it's a minor. And then it's going to ask questions. Is this your first time filing in a case? I'm going to say no. It's also asking a lot of other questions. I'm going to say no. Please indicate if you are appearing in the case for any of the following types. This, I do not qualify under any of that. Are you appearing as an attorney? No. Emergency filing? No. Interpreter? I do not need one. Then I would hit next. And then you're going to come to this screen, and this is where you're going to add your documents. So I'm going to add my first lead document. It's going to be a petition, and it's going to be a petition for release. And you will add in the document title. It doesn't have to be exact because once we receive this in e-file, we can always correct or make changes as needed. And then, so I'm going to add petition, has 3 pages, and then now I'm going to choose my file. There it is. I'm going to open. And then I want to hit save. So now I have my petition. If I want to keep it, I can keep it. You'll see there is an application fee of $6.50. That's a fee that's going to come along with any lead document you file. Pardon me. Next, with this petition, I'm going to add a proposed order. So here I would hit proposed order. Again, proposed order. I'm just going to type in order here. Has 2 pages. Then I'll choose my file. Right there. Then I would hit save. So I have both my filings here. I don't need to add another connecting document. I could if I wanted to, but no, you're going to do a lead and usually an order, and that's what you're going to do. If you do another lead, you're going to get charged another $6.50. And I have all of this. I'm going to say yes. We don't have anybody that I want to serve. There's nobody being served, so I would not click on any of these to be served. And then I'm going to do fee exempt agency so that I don't go to the payment screen. But otherwise, you would hit electronic payment and it will take you to the payment screen. And then I'm going to, I can go in here and revise anything if I needed to. I don't need to. I'm going to hit confirm and submit all now. And as you can see, everything's going in there. And then we receive an email. Well, the filer will receive an email once everything has been submitted. And that's about all I got on that. I will give this back to Mike.
Thank you, Denise. And at this point, we're going to start fielding questions. I see a few that have already populated in chat. I will try to go as closely in order as possible. The first one that I see was posted at 12:10 by Kind Britt Johnson. And it was a question regarding filing confidential documents. And there seems to be a few questions related to confidential documents. Her question was, if a document is confidential, is it automatically restricted if e-filed? And Ramona and or Denise, if you could address that. I know that we had covered the various documents that would be considered automatically restricted as confidential. But in terms of the mechanics of someone filing a confidential document, let's say, for example, a medical report, would they select medical report in the interface? And then at that point, when it's transmitted to us, it's automatically designated confidential. If you could just confirm the mechanics from the filing perspective of that, please.
Yes, that's basically how it's going to work. If you have accounting, you're going to select ACT and accounting when you're submitting the filing. That automatically makes it a confidential. And when it comes over to us in e-file, it will be confidential. So that keeps it that way. So it would be accounting, medical report, anything like that would be confidential.
Okay, and there was a follow-up question from user Maricopa, where they state they have a few cases where the medical report with a confidential cover letter are viewable in the ECR. Is there a reason why a medical report, if e-filed, would still be publicly accessible? Can you think of a reason why? Or
The medical report should not be visible. That is a confidential report. So I really honestly don't know unless it was not filed correctly, not coded correctly.
yeah, I was thinking possibly maybe
Correct.
if it was attached to another document, but
Yeah.
my recommendation for that specific user is I will provide the e-file support contact information in chat, which is also on the PowerPoint. And if you'd like to contact us with those specific cases, we could certainly analyze that one for you. Melissa Moy had a question regarding a presentation from January 28th. It looks like this one was conducted in a probate courtroom. I'm not sure if that was facilitated by the clerk's office or the court, but Kristen, would you have familiarity with that? I'm not sure if that was something maybe you facilitated on behalf of the registrar.
Not that I am aware of, no. No. I can find out maybe, I mean, going through probate court admin, but yeah, I'm not familiar. I wasn't involved with that one.
Okay. Melissa, we will provide you contact information for our team, and then if you want to follow up with us, we could see if we could track down the facilitator of that specific presentation, if we could get you a copy. Ashley Porter had a question in terms of designated documents as confidential in e-filing. I believe Denise has since addressed that. Francis Lansbury posted a question regarding creating user accounts, and it's, can legal assistants create an account or does it need to be an attorney? Nicole, would you mind fielding that one?
Sure. Yeah. So what we recommend is if you are working on behalf of an attorney, that you actually create an organization account where you would be assigning someone as the administrator and then adding those attorneys. The attorney would then grant you proxy rights so that you could file on behalf of the attorney. If you need help getting that organization set up, you can reach out to the AOC Support Center. I think it's in the slides, the contact information there, and then we can walk you through how to get that set up correctly.
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Kristen, this might be a question for you. There was a request from Kathy Parker. If you could please clarify what you mean by informal resubmissions.
Absolutely. So basically, once the case is initiated and we deny it, and there are different things that need to be redone, that's what we would consider a resubmission. So if you submit those documents through e-file, they're not going to come to our office. They're just going to automatically go on docket and they're not going to get to us. So that's why we need those submissions to come over the counter in order for us to get them scanned to us, for us to be able to review them timely. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
She says, thank you, Kristen,
Perfect.
and thank you. Great response. Thank you.
Thanks.
A question regarding filing accountings. How to select for a subsequent accounting after the second accounting. Appears that the user sees an option for first and second accounting, but any guidance from that? I'm not sure, Nicole or Denise, if you'd have familiarity on how to e-file an accounting after the second.
That I'm not familiar with. Nicole might have more information on that.
Sorry, I was looking at our configuration and I think the comment is correct. I don't see a subsequent accounting, so perhaps Michael, after the meeting, you and I can chat about what needs to be done to make that option available.
Yes, most certainly. Patricia, we will follow up with you and the rest of the users once we have some more information on that one. Thank you.
I can tell you that I did experience that recently where we just used we had them use first accounting, second accounting. The only other option I believe was final accounting, and we didn't want them to submit under that. So until we get that other subsequent filing one up, I would recommend that we still, in order for us to be able to receive them via e-file, that we just use the option 1 and 2 for now.
Thank you, Kristen. Question regarding confidential documents. Question was, what happens if an attorney files all the documents as confidential in a matter because the person is a minor? Can they be filed electronically? Ramon or Denise, please correct me on this, but I think outside of the documents that are deemed confidential by default, other documents that a user was attempting to file as confidential, there would need to be a corresponding order or authority for us to restrict those as confidential. That if someone had filed a document requesting that it be confidential, we would check for an order. If an order was not on record, allowing for those to be treated as confidential, we return to the user, letting them know that. But if you could please clarify my understanding.
No, that would be, you're right, Michael. That would be correct. If they file all of them under confidential, depending on if they're attached or how that's going to be, it's most likely we would either reject it out or just the top document would be the confidential document, so everything else would follow behind that document, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you, Denise. And there was a related question from Lorraine, which asked about e-filing a petition that is designated confidential by court order. Likewise, that could be e-filed as confidential. We would then reference the docket, confirm there's an order allowing that to be restricted as confidential, and file it as confidential then. Regarding avoiding filing fees, if you're exempt from filing fees, Denise, if you could address that question. I believe there's one of several radio buttons that would need to be selected if someone was exempt from filing fees, but if you could please confirm that.
I'm sorry. I was trying to find the question that you're reading from. I don't see it.
So for example, court-appointed counsel, indigent client, how would we not get charged the filing fee?
You can always claim exempt. If they think they're exempt, they can always claim exempt on the filing fees. We will definitely, once it comes to e-file, we'll look it over and see if you are exempt or not. If you're not, then we would send you out an email, a payment email. But other than that, if you're exempt, then we would keep it exempt. Guardian ad litem, court-appointed counsel, they are exempt from filing fees.
If I could interject, Mike, Denise,
Please.
if you could share your screen and just get back into that case, if you don't mind, in eFileZ, I can show the participants how to indicate that.
Sure, give me just 1 second,
Sure.
Nicole. I closed out everything. I'm gonna get back in.
Sorry. Yeah. There are radio buttons, so while she's pulling that up, I can just talk through it. So on the screen, once you get logged into eFileZ and you indicate that you want to file subsequently into a case, you're taken to a case information tab. About halfway down that tab, there is a section to indicate if you've been appointed by the court, and then it lists a series of role types. And from there, you would be able to select the role type that applies. And then by selecting that role type, it would zero out the fees, so you wouldn't even be presented with a payment option at the end. It would just be automatically exempted.
Thank you, Nicole. And while we're waiting for Denise to share her screen, there was a question regarding, is e-filing required or can documents still be filed at the clerk's office? E-file for probate is not mandatory. It's still permissive. So probate documents, those filed by self-represented litigants and attorneys may still be filed at the counter. Another question was, we file the accounting as an attachment to the petition to approve the accounting. Do we file the entire document as a ACT? Will the petition and other attachments other than the accounting be available to view?
I have that one. Mike.
Please, thank you,
Sorry.
Kristen.
Yeah, we get this a lot. The petition has to be submitted separate from the accounting. When we receive a petition, it is coded into our system differently so that it routes correctly, and that the accounting is separated and left confidential. Because the petition isn't confidential, the accounting is. So that's the answer to that. We would need them to be filed in separately, please.
And my apologies for taking so long. I'm back up. Nicole, if you would like to walk me
Sure.
through that.
Yeah, if you could just scroll up for me. So this is the
Scroll
screen.
up.
Yeah. Here, this is the tab. Once you have entered into the system, you're asked to enter the case number. It will validate that case number. And then if you could scroll down a little bit more, you'll see partway through, you have a place to indicate if you're appearing in the case as one of the following types. And then you have a list here. There's always other. If you don't find the one that you're looking for, you can select other. And then if you notice along the top, you have various tabs: case information, documents, service, etc. You would actually just skip over that fee and payment tab entirely by selecting one of these options. And then just as Denise said, it would get to them, they would verify whether the selection that you made was appropriate, and then they would reach out if there was an issue.
Correct. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. Thank you, Denise, and thank you, Nicole.
Mhm.
Will conformed copies be emailed to us automatically, or do we need to request that? I do not believe conformed copies are automatically sent out upon e-file, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I can take that one too. So when you file in the when you initially submit it to the court, you get the email indicating that it has been sent to the court, and then when the court has processed that submission, either accepting or rejecting it, then another system generated email will be sent to you. It will indicate that the submission was accepted. If it was rejected, it will say why it was rejected so that you have the opportunity to correct it with your next filing. When it's been accepted, though, if you wait about 15 or 30 minutes and then log back into your e-filing account, you would be able to access your profile. So top right corner, there's a little menu option that says My Filings. You'd be able to go in there. You would see a list of the submissions that you've created, be able to open up the case, and then from there download those documents.
Thank you.
And just
I
to
did-
add to that, Mike, just, yeah, sorry, just to add to that, so you can also get copies in ECR if the documents are not confidential.
Thank you, Ramona. And then if the document is confidential, we had provided guidance, and that will be included on the PowerPoint that we send out in terms of obtaining copies of confidential documents that are e-filed. Thank you. I did skip a question. Thank you for pointing that out. The question was, user had recently attempted to upload a stipulated order, which had been executed in DocuSign. It was a PDF. The system would not accept it. It wanted a Word version. Going forward, should we file both a Word version of the stipulated order and the executed PDF copy, or simply a Word version with \s signature version?
I can take that one. So I think we would have to look at what the configuration is for that document type. We've accommodated for this in family court by allowing stipulated decrees to come through. So I think this is another one, Mike, we can put on the list to chat about afterwards, and then we can take a look at that docket, or I'm sorry, the options in eFileEZ.
Yes, thank you, Nicole. And to TJ, Ryan, we will follow up with you and the rest of the registered users with more information on that one. Thank you for the question. Question on what document type to select to file a response to court accounting reports, rejecting an accounting for a first accounting that avoids being charged another accounting fee of $300. Not sure, Denise, Ramona, if you have any input on that one, or if that's something that we'd have to review further.
I got it. There shouldn't be a charge for a response to accounting. It should, if it's filed as a response and coded as a response or an answer, there would not be an additional fee. So if there is a specific case where that happened, we would want to be informed of that to make sure that we get that refunded or figure out what happened.
Okay, thank you, Kristen, for confirming. Question was, are there any plans to extend probate e-filing permissions to Turbo Court in the future, or is it intended to be limited to AZ e-file? Nicole, I don't know if you know otherwise. I think at this point, it's going to be limited to AZ e-file, but I'm not sure if there's any plans on extending it to Turbo Court.
That's correct. Yeah. For now,
Okay.
it's just within eFileEZ.
Thank you. Will mailed in documents still be accepted? Yes, I don't believe there's any restrictions on mail-in filings. Again, e-file for probate remains permissive. Can multiple documents be e-filed at the same time in probate court, or do they still have to be filed individually?
So
You want me to take this one, Ramona? Yeah, so
Sure.
the way it's set up now, just as it is in the other Maricopa case types, you can only upload one lead document at a time. So you can upload your lead document and then connect as many connected documents, proposed orders, exhibits, things like that. But if you have a separate lead document, then it would have to come in as a separate submission. And when we say lead document, really we're referring to those documents that normally get a file stamp. That's how we distinguish those.
Thank you, Nicole. Can we see the list of automatic confidential documents again? I posted it in the chat, and then we will also include that in the PowerPoint that we send out after the presentation. Next question. Generally, there is an option to designate you. Okay. Where do you get the receipts from a filing? I believe those are emailed upon submission, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
No, they're emailed.
Sorry. Yeah, those come from NCourt. So if you do make a payment, those get emailed to you from NCourt. We don't have access to those receipts. So if you find that you have made a payment and you did not get that receipt or you need a separate copy, you can always contact the AOC Support Center, and we have a different version of that receipt that we can provide to you. It'll look a little bit different, but it's still a receipt.
Thank you, Nicole. It sounds like all probate initial filings still must be done in person. Am I understand that correctly? Yes, at this time, e-filing for probate is limited to subsequent or post-initiation filings. Initiating documents would still have to be filed in person. Would the accounting then be filed as a connected document to the petition? I believe this was related to the question you had addressed earlier, Kristen. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. It would not be connected to the petition. It would need to be filed separately. That is connected to that question. I also was thinking about another one, the annual report of Guardian. A lot of people attach the medical report behind that, and that also needs to be filed separately. Annual report, medical report, so that that medical report goes on as confidential.
Thank you, Kristen.
Uh-huh.
Question about when we say separately filed documents, does separately filed documents mean a new submission, start to finish, or a separate document uploaded as part of a submission, but not listed as an attachment to a document?
I think that means new submission.
New submission from start
Yes,
to
new
finish.
submission.
Okay, thank you. All right, I believe that I have covered all of the questions in chat. If
There's
I
one more there, Mike, sorry, at the bottom from Kim.
Oh, yes. How do we send copies of filings to others? So I believe there's a couple options, but I'll defer to the experts here.
I guess I would need more clarification, Kim, if you don't mind. Are you talking about providing it at the time that you are filing the documents or after they have been accepted by the court? At the time of filing, so there is on one of the tabs when you create your submission, after you've uploaded the document, there is a service tab. This is considered secondary service. And so if you have filed into the case electronically in the past, anybody who has filed into it, their name and email address will appear in the list. Otherwise, it's just yourself. But if you don't see the person that you want to provide a copy to, there's an additional tab, Denise, there in the middle that says My Added Attorney Interested Parties there. Go ahead and select that. And then from here, you can say Add Other Attorney Interested Party, and you can enter that contact information. If you indicate that you want to add them as an e-service favorite, so they're kind of in the top right corner of that box, Denise. If you click on that one, when you create this, that means every time that you come back into file into this case, that person that you enter here will appear. So then the next time around, you'd be able to just select their name from the screen and it would send them a copy. So this is a copy of what you are submitting. The fact that you are serving them when you create the submission does not mean that they would automatically get notification of what happens with the submission. So only the filer would get that email saying it was accepted or rejected. So sometimes there's an assumption that because you e-served them, they would also get notification of what happened with it, but that's not the case. So I hope that answered your question. You're welcome.
Great. Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.
We'll stick around for a few more minutes to see if there's any additional questions, but there has been some inquiries regarding getting copies of the chat session. Yes, we do plan on making this recording available, and we'll work on a way to disseminate that or provide a link. As well, in addition to the PowerPoint, we'll work on condensing the questions that were presented here into a Q&A document for easier reference. I believe that's something that we could likely have disseminated within the next week or two, and that will go out to all registered users. For those of you that may drop off, I want to thank you for attending and the great questions. And if there are any additional questions, feedback, or comments on eFile, please send those to our contact information that we'll provide on the deck. I really appreciate the engagement here. Question about adding a party for service. Why is guardian not included in the drop-down menu for case role in the service box?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I don't know that I was aware that it wasn't an option, but there is also always the option to select other. When you select other, then you have the opportunity to type in the role that you're looking for there. So I can take this back and look at that drop down list to see if we need to make edits to it. But in the meantime, I would suggest picking other and then typing that in.
Thank you for the question, and thank you again, Nicole.
Mhm.
Payment options for eFile. Must we have an account, or can we pay with credit card? I believe payments by credit card, Nicole, but is that?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
You can do that. And you can also, in your profile, you can create a payment token. So you'd be able to register the credit card if you plan to use it for every submission. And then that way, when you get to end court, you would just select the save token rather than having to enter it in every time.
Thank you. Okay, well, been a lull in questions. I, again, thank you for joining today's webinar on behalf of the clerk's office and AOC. Hopefully this was useful, informational, and again, want to extend the offer if you have additional questions or comments to reach out to us. We'll provide contact information for both the AOC and the clerk's office. With that, thank you and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Goodbye.